Welcome back to the program, getting closer and closer to the third hour of Citizen Extra live on Citizen TV. Right now, we have a crossover to Railway Club where a section of the Kenya National Union of Nurses are addressing the public. Let's have a listen into their statement.
Only to reserve somewhere in Gagamega, disowning us and disowning the agreement. After 2 days, on 14, he came and signed the same document without any alterations. I took it with pride as the national chair, because ours was actually to ensure that the nurses of this country benefit from our actions of last year, having gone on strike, including what we achieved during the return to work formula negotiations. Remember, we achieved nursing service allowances of between 15 and 20,000 payable as from January this year, and I'm happy that most of the counties are paying. To a few counties have hitches here and there, but those are just isolated cases. We are also able to sign recognition agreement with county governments on 14th December at the Delta House, that's a COG headquarters, a document which is supposed to govern us, and if we were to adhere to our own agreements, this strike should not have been there, because in that document it provides clear framework of how trade disputes are handled before even we think of going on strike. That was number 2, and then number 3, of course, as I said, was a framework of negotiating a CBA. 6 months down the line, there is no CBA. Nurses are being hoodwinked that there is a CBA, and that they are now dancing on the streets demanding for a CBA, which is a lie. There is no CBA. What we have is a proposed agreed draft, which SRC, of course, actually has disowned it, saying that the country cannot sustain it economically. So that I come to my statement, there has been a lot of insinuations peddled by my own colleagues that I am no longer the chairman of the Kenya National Union of Nurses, that we have one who has been masquerading in your TV saying that he is the chairman or the acting chairman, while you all know that I moved to court citing the General Secretary for abuse of office, and of course I managed to send him home for 4 days where he was not a General Secretary, only for him to rush to court, 6-day orders, and he was given. And again, as a law-abiding citizen, I accepted the verdict of the court, which actually said that status quo should remain, and therefore, as I speak today as the national chairman of the Kenya National Union of Nurses in this country. And I have a backing here. This is the latest extract from the Registrar of Trade Unions, dated 8 June 2017. Signed by none other than A.M. Kishia, Registrar of Trade Unions, and on the first list where we have the title, the full names and effective date, the first person on the list is the National Chairman, Mr. John B. Effective date of election was 26th February 2016. So whoever has been masquerading as the chairman actually is not a chairman. He needs to be put behind bars. The way Trump told us that Clinton belonged to bars, I think he also belonged to bars. So let me come to my statement, because I just wanted clarity, so that as you go make your news, you know that you have a backing, that we have a new extract, unless otherwise proven that I am no longer the chairman, then all those other stories you are hearing are null and void. So this is our official press statement, which I will actually thereafter expound on it, because I could not capture everything. It is a press statement on the ongoing nurses strike, dated 16th June 2017 at the railway clubs. My fellow nurses and Kenyans, my office wishes to regret the stalled negotiation on the collective bargaining agreement due to the ongoing strike. And as stated earlier in my press statement on 6th June 2017, it is clear that the strike was premature and meant to build political profile of some individuals at your expense. My office has engaged the stakeholders in the negotiating team, and in this one I mean the COG, not a union. The union disowned me, they have failed. So I started my own initiative by bringing my colleagues on board so that we can be able to unlock the stalemate, and we engage the negotiating team of the COG or the Council of Governors. So my office has engaged the stakeholders.
Excuse me, media, please, for
in the
excuse me. This is live, I know.
My
But
office.
this is not right. You are being given the wrong narrative about the strike for nurses.
So
the
my
General
office.
Secretary himself is coming here and he will address you on the correct state of the nurses strike. Please stop this, and the General Secretary is here within 1 minute to address you on the correct matter. These guys here have been bought by the government, and they have been compromised. They have been given money to compromise the system. Ask yourself this question: why are the government not going to call to declare the strike illegal? These guys and the government are declaring the strike illegal without going to interpret the return to work formula we signed in December, which is suspending the strike. You see, the General Secretary is here within 1 minute, and don't listen to these guys. They are all purporting to be chairman. Jeremiah Maina was the chairman of NNK. We expelled him from the association. He is now purporting to be the chairman of APAC. Of all the professions, and he is a nurse. Here, the chairman, Mr. B, was the chairman of nurses, Kenya National Union of Nurses. We expelled him from the union. Here, Josephine Musundi was the chairman of the Kenya National Union of Nurses. We expelled him, and we did the elections. They are purporters and they are imposters. The General Secretary himself is coming in 1 minute.
He has spoken.
They have been bought by the COG. They have been bought, and the COG cannot declare a strike illegal. There is nobody who can declare the strike illegal except the court.
My office has engaged the stakeholders in the negotiation, and I am glad to state that the Council of Governors has agreed to reopen the talks on condition that the nurses resume service immediately and the union to comply with the
negotiation agreement. Signed
on 14 February 2017.
He has been compromised by
meaning that each county will have to negotiate their own CBA separately, which will be determined detrimental to the nurses because we may end up putting varied documents across the counties. My office took the initiative to petition.
Please, that's not the correct position. It's not the correct position. It's not the correct position. We will not allow this. We will not allow this. This is a Kenyan issue. No. We will not allow this. We will not allow this. Why are you scared?
No, we are not scared.
Why are you scared?
We are not scared.
And therefore, God,
We are not scared.
God
Why are you?
will locate your own settlement elsewhere. Why are you scared? We will not allow
No,
this.
we are not scared. But I think
Who are number
what
one
we are saying,
now?
what we are saying, not the embarrass yourself that you are
Yes.
doing what the strike.
Sisi tumelipa ruhu.
What are we doing?
Kwa nini? We are.
Wanafanya nini hapa? What are they doing here? Can they be arrested?
Can they be arrested?
What are
We are going to pay.
arrested?
We are going to pay.
You being faithful.
Even if you
Did you say
don't
for
you are
this?
paid.
Go for the one.
We will not allow this.
Who are you?
You need to.
Who are you?
We fear arrest.
Who are you?
We are not. We
Who are
fear arrest.
you? The question is, who are you?
You are cheating.
In this union, who are you? That's the question. Who are you in this union? You are nowhere. Who elected you? You are nobody. You are nobody. You are nobody. Who are you in this union?
We will not
You
allow
are not subject in Africa. You are not subject.
and question for who in the ministry.
You are from Kenyatta. And you are a member of the union. Enter. Go out, belong here. Go. So you have paid. Have you paid what? It will be given. Whether you like it or not. That's not acceptable. You cannot why who is being used? You are being used. This is Kenyan life. This Kenyan's life. Hakuna siasa hapa. This is not a union. This is about Kenyan's life. Hutaleta hapa siasa. Hutaleta siasa hiyo hapa. It is not acceptable. Hakuna siasa hapa. When you are not respected, that you are not going to be progressive. Wagonjwa hawatakufa kwa sababu tunataka siasa. Wanasi hakuna siasa. Sasa hiyo tunasema wazi, hakuna siasa hapa. Hautaleta hapa siasa. Ndio tunasema. The correct position. Go ahead with your Go ahead with your no, waambie wakuje. Na press ujue leo hakuna official hapa. Hakuna official hapa sasa. Ujue leo hakuna official hapa. Can you give an extra? No. Can you give an extra to this hapa? Nini? Watu ni nani? Huyu ni nani? Yako wewe ni nani? Wewe ni nani? No. Who is my dad? Where is your name? Where is my dad? Where are these people here? Where are they? Hiyo pesa inalema hata kama ndio mzee hiyo pesa kama mnataka pesa hata kama umepewa nini na unajua na nini hatujui kwani nini wote ndio baadhi ya vipi nafikiria mnamshika kwa pesa na pesa we don't know kama wewe umepeleka kazi unasikia kwamba I know what is there from A to Z. Mnaenda mnakutana na koti Kakamega, mnatengeneza watu wakumbe, mnakuja kuniambia hapa. Wacha kuna kama wacha kama chini. Unauliza wewe ndio unaongea kama nani? Ndani ile. Kama ilipokea na kalamu hapa saa hii. Ndio you can afford for business food. Why you can make come on. Tafadhali nini yalitokeni hapa? We are watching you guys. Hawa kuambia hapa na hii group. This group. Mpaka kwa ule. Twende kuambia hapa mpaka kwa ule. Mpaka hii. Twende. No. Hawa. Wewe, kama gani? Kwenda. Hawa kwanza ndio wanaribu jina la wacha tuende toka. Wapatie hiyo kwa na macho watajisomea. Give them the wapatie watajisomea hiyo kwa. And I have many students. So don't mind. Hatupigani. Tunaongea. Kama hapa ilikuwa ni out of bounds mngalipa hapo.
Even it is Kenya National Union of Blood.
Mimi ndio mnaharakisha. Mimi ndio anakimbia kupeana mambo yake kabla hayakungojea. Huyu chama huyu hapa tumemwambia tupitie huyu na haraka atakimbia kupeana mambo yake. Kwa maana amekula na tunalipa na pesa yetu. Na anakuja kulipa. Tumepatia chama pesa atulipie room tupeane. Na anakimbia hapa. Huyu anasema ni chama. Huyu anasema anabuku on behalf of the union. Why? Let him give the statement. I'm not moving. We booked here. You are not even an official of the council. I'm not moving, my friend. You are not even an official. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? I am here to know. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? I am not moving. Are you here? Who are you? Who are you? Here. Who are you? Here. Are you a who are you? Okay.
I hope it is live. Sasa wamejua kama official na kina nani. I can start. Okay, wacha tuwaje official.
What are you posters? You not entertaining.
Sasa wacha hawa address kidogo.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Joseph Gwasi, the acting national chairperson. The Union of Nurses is very much disappointed by these hooligans here who are coming here to mislead Kenyans. And what we want to reiterate is that the Kenya National Union of Nurses is the one which called off the strike. It was not called off by individuals. The Union Constitution is very clear on who is supposed to speak on behalf of the Union. We booked for a press conference, and other masqueraders from nowhere are coming here to address Mindia as Union of Nurses. We want to dare them. We want to dare them. Go and face the nurses there outside. If they are officials of the union, when nurses held a grand demonstration here, where are they? Where are they on Monday? If they are if they are officials of the union, are they representing the interests of the nurses who are on strike there? Why have nurses not obeyed them by purporting to call off the strike? Kenya National Union of Nurses leadership will not entertain any side shows. The union has constitution, and when the union suspends someone and he purports now to call the media and address the same nurses, we are not going to allow that. Sure. And the position of the union is that nurses are on strike until their collective bargaining agreement is addressed, is signed, registered in court and implemented. That is the position of the nurses. If people want to talk there outside, let them talk as individuals, but they do not represent the interests of nurses. That is the position of nurses. That is the position of the union and our members, who are very much aggrieved by this kind of side shows happening here because they are watching all over the country. We want to tell them in front of the cameras that let them go and enjoy the handouts they have been given by various quarters of government. We are representing the interests of nurses, not our individual interests. That is the position of the union. Shortly, the General Secretary will address you. We will have our Deputy General Secretary to address us as we await for the General Secretary who is back in the country. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to put some points very clear. I'm Maurice Odhiambo Petu, the Deputy General Secretary, and the one who has been acting for the General Secretary while he was away. But I want to inform you that he is around, he is with us, and is the spokesman of the union. I want to put some points very clear, that the government should know that they are not going to run away from this. The lives of Kenya, the health of Kenyans are on their hands. And they should not use any kind of brokers to try to destabilize the functions and the rights given to this union by law, the rights given to the nurses by law. We are not doing this to please anybody or at the mercy of anybody. We are doing this because the nurses are aggrieved, and the union is the voice of the 26,000 nurses outside there who are totally and fully behind this team you are seeing here. The team here is the voice of the union. The brokers who have been brought here to address the media are not members of this union, they are not the officials of this union, and they are not the spokesman or man of this union. The union has the structures, and those are the people the members know. I want also to put the brokers, the likes of Maina, Musundi and John B, on notice that nurses will never entertain you. If you think it is today that you are purporting to disown nurses and their activities, you should know that the nurses disowned you so many years back when you failed to act in the interest of their demands. They disowned you long time ago, and therefore you should not speak on their behalf. You should not transact any activity on their behalf. So, members of the Fourth Estate, we want to say that it is unfortunate. We have guys who are a disgrace to this union. Abado men, Mashetani to this union, John B and the likes. They should go to court. They have 100 cases in court against the nurses. Let them go to court and square their matters in court before they come to purport to be speaking on behalf of the nurses. Let them also know the directions of the COG and Afia House, where they collect their tokens and being cheated that they can disrupt this movement of nurses. This is above them. We are putting two people on notice, Jacqueline Mogeni and Governor Ongwai, who are using John B and the fellas to distract this movement. That please direct your focus and energy in addressing the issue at hand and break the stalemate by actually being reasonable. Stop being unreasonable. Please stop being unreasonable. Address the agenda, address the plight of Wananchi, address the plight of nurses. That is all. I want to add something. We have this John B, whom I don't want to pronounce his name because it is nauseating, that he is opposed to a CBA that has been legally negotiated by the government and the nurses union, legally, and therefore he is opposed to what the nurses want. Is no longer a nurse. He has been sacked by the county government of Uasin Gishu, and he should go to court and address that before he comes to talk on behalf of the nurses. He is not a nurse. Maina is not a nurse. Musundi is somebody who is just roaming about. Brokers, we can't allow them. We can't allow them to interfere with the nurses' interests. The nurses' interests, the nurses' agenda is bigger than John B. and Musundi. Let them go to court. Let them go and fight for their employment. Maina was dismissed from Kenyatta of misbehavior. John B. was dismissed from Uasin Gishu when he could not even go for just a normal discussion with the administration. So when he has failed even to contain his own employment, how can he contain the issue of 26,000 nurses? He is a failure, a total failure, a total disgrace to the nurses. Yeah.
Kwa majina naitwa Diamond Kwara. Mimi naibu katibu mtendaji wa chama hiki cha kutetea maslahi ya wauguzi. Nyote mna habari kwamba mwaka uliopita tulikuwa na mgomo wa kitaifa wa wauguzi, na swala nyeti ilikuwa ni kusahihishwa ama kuwekwa sahihi kwa mkataba wa makubaliano ya pamoja, collective bargaining agreement, kati ya chama chetu na serikali. Wakati ule tulishauriana na serikali ili kwamba tusitishe mgomo ule. Tukakubaliana na serikali kwamba kitu cha kwanza ilikuwa ni kusahihisha mkataba na serikali za kaunti kwa sababu ya kutambua chama hiki. Kitu cha pili ilikuwa ni wauguzi wote Kenya nzima walipwe marupurupu ya wauguzi kwa jina nursing service allowance. Kitu cha tatu ilikuwa ni kushauriana ili kukuja na ile inaitwa collective bargaining agreement ama makubaliano ya pamoja. Ningependa kuthibitisha kwamba mkataba ule wa kutambua chama hiki na serikali za kaunti uliwekwa sahihi kule kwa ofisi za magavana, na yale marupurupu ya nursing service allowance tulishangaa kwamba serikali ililipa ule mwezi wa Januari. Kuanzia Februari tukashangaa kwamba marupurupu haya yakawa hayalipi kwa wale wauguzi kama vile tulikuwa tumekubaliana na serikali. Jambo la tatu ilikuwa ni kuhusiana na collective bargaining agreement. Januari tungependa kuthibitisha kwamba tumekuwa na mashauriano na serikali, na lengo ilikuwa ni kwamba ikifika March tarehe 2 mkataba huu uwe majadiliano yameisha na umewekwa sahihi na unasubiri kutekelezwa kuanzia mwezi wa Julai. Kushangaa kwetu ni kwamba baada ya kushauriana na serikali, wakati wa kuweka sahihi wanatuzungusha huku, mara ni leo, mara ni kesho, mara ni leo, mara ni kesho, mpaka mwisho tukafikia kiwango cha kwamba tukaamua kupeana ilani ya mgomo ambao ulianza tarehe 5 ya mwezi wa Juni mwaka huu. Na tungependa kusisitiza kwamba wauguzi Kenya nzima sahizi wako katika mgomo wa kitaifa, mgomo ambao uliitishwa na chama hiki kupitia Secretary General wetu ama katibu mkuu Bwana Seth Panyako akisaidiwa na viongozi mnaona hapa mbele yenu. Tungependa kuweka wazi kwamba viongozi wa kitaifa wa chama hiki ni wale mnaona mbele yenu. Wale ambao mliona hapa dakika chache zilizopita pale mapema, wale ni sawa sana wale watu ambao wanapatikana kila soko. Mnajua ni watu gani wanapatikana katika kila soko? Kila soko ukienda uwezo wakosa wale wenda wazimu. Kwa hivyo ni ile kusisitiza tu kwamba mgomo wa wauguzi huko na unaendelea, na masuala ni mawili peke yake kwa sasa: kuwekwa sahihi kwa mkataba wa makubaliano ya pamoja na kuregeshwa yale marupurupu ya uguzi kwa jina Nursing Service Allowance ambayo tulikubaliana na serikali. Asanteni.
Let's talk figures now. We're talking about the country saying it's a vibrant economy. And you say that from the $4.4 billion that India in 2015, and $5.3 billion came from the Ministry of Health. We have never seen any unit, whether it's the doctor, whether it's the dentist, or not.
Well, you've just witnessed a very dramatic event at the Railway Club as a section of Kenya National Union of Nurses had called a press conference there led by their chairperson, John B., to address the public. And it is believed that part of their mission was to tentatively call off the strike and open negotiations with the Council of Governors. But what we saw is that another section of the Kenya National Union of Nurses interrupted that meeting. Let's listen in to Maurice Opeto one more time before we come back to studio.
Or on the purported or the issue of corruption that went on in Afia House. We condemned it, and as nurses we shall not condone any act of corruption in Kenya. Leave that alone. The Kenya Nurses Union have always been outspoken in all issues that affect wananchi, the common man, especially on matters of health. So I want to say that there is no disconnect in this, and the Nurses Union will always stand strong on any issue that affects health sector.
Kando na madai ambayo wameibua kwamba chairman anadai kwamba ni baraka wa serikali, labda kuna tofauti zote ambazo mko na yeye.
I think this could be answered mostly by the purported chairman. We don't know whether it's the sitting or the standing or the running chairman. But then I want to say that we have structures, and these structures have ways of tackling issues within, and we have used those constitutional methods or ways to address issues within the union structures and management. And therefore, right now, there are no differences in the union leadership. The person whom you are saying, the John B., is in court with his own issues. So right now, the union is very solid, the leadership is very solid, and therefore we can't talk about any differences.
As you can see, these are the officials of the union.
But the country is asking the chairman, so where did the country go?
The courts, the determination of the court is not there, and if you have any, you tell us. The court has not determined his case. What we know as a union, and I want to tell you, the court has no mandate to interfere with the internal management of the union affairs or the structures. The court has no mandate at all. We function normally, and we are managing the union in the normal way. So,
in other words, despite the court taking back, have you also done the mechanism?
Yes, and we have taken action according to those internal mechanisms.
So in other words,
we have observed, and that is why he's away from the office.
Did you have a national chairman, or what is the list of the national officials?
Sorry? Sorry?
The list of the topmost officials, national officials in the union, for purposes of clarification.
We have our application for change of name at the registrar's office, and this one is just the one that was there before.
So you don't have any national chairman?
Right now we have the acting national chairman, and he is the one who has been speaking on behalf of the union and on behalf of the NEC. Allow me to usher in my general secretary so that he can also address you.
Solidarity! Forever! Solidarity! Forever! Ni baraka wapi? Chini! Ni baraka wapi? Nje! Mikora wapi?
Nje.
Waizi wapi?
Nje.
Wachinda wapi?
Nje.
Hao mapompas wapi?
Nje.
Solidarity.
Forever.
Solidarity.
Forever.
Solidarity.
Forever.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want first to thank the members of the fourth estate. While I was away, you did a commendable job for actually bringing before the public and the world the state of healthcare system in this country, occasioned by the industrial action that is going on by the nurses of this country. I want also to take this opportunity to thank my colleagues and the nurses across the country for standing steadfast and defending their rights. I know that there has been a few issues here and there by those fellows who have been the bootlickers, who have been licking people's boots, who have been contracted to shame the profession, who are on the payroll of some people that we are going to mention today, marks a new narrative in this industrial action. Today we are going to name names of the people behind the statement in the signing of the CBA. Today we are going to answer the question, where is the problem? Today it is bare knuckles. We cannot sit here to palpate people's egos when the public is suffering. Time for that is long gone. We have already lost everything. Kenyans have suffered and they continue to suffer. Kenyans have died and they continue to die. Therefore, as a union, we are not going to spare any specific individual we believe and we know that is behind the stalemate. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, my official statement is not yet ready, still being worked on, but I will be referring to this interim statement so that I give the position on the ongoing nurses strike. So I'll be reading, and some things I will not be reading because it's not yet ready. I'll send to you the official statements in all the media houses after the press conference, after maybe the period of 1 hour. This one is just interim. It's not yet ready. The recent pronouncement by the chairman of Council of Governors, Honorable Nanok, Governor for Turkana County, also supported by the pronouncement by SRC Chair Sarah Serem. I'm saying SRC Chair. I'm not saying Salaries and Remuneration Commission. I'm saying SRC Chair Sarah Serem. I am not saying Council of Governors. I'm saying Honorable Nanok. Honorable Ongwae, Governor for Kisii. I am not saying COG. I'm saying Honorable Ongwae. Honorable Ranguma, His Excellency, Governor for Kisumu. I am not saying COG. I'm saying Honorable Ranguma. Jacqueline Mogeni. I am not saying COG Secretariat. I'm saying Jacqueline Mogeni. Continued falsifying and giving erroneous information to the public that the collective bargaining agreement by nurses was still under negotiation is hereby termed as irresponsible, untenable, and very, very timid from people who are supposed to be public servants, who are supposed to give proper information to members of the public and update the nation accordingly. I want to say that the collective bargaining agreement under dispute was sufficiently and efficiently negotiated and completed on 29 March 2017. The process of negotiating the CBA is the same process that preceded negotiating of the recognition agreement. So you cannot say the process that was used to negotiate the recognition agreement and ultimately the recognition agreement was signed by 47
45 count governments is not binding, while the revocation agreement is binding. That the Kenya National Union of Nurses, as you are aware, went on strike in December and agreed with the two levels of government, the national government and the county government. And the national government was represented by none other than the Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Cleopa Mailu himself. He is the one who signed a return to work agreement, where we agreed that nurses from job group G up to L, they were to get a nursing service allowance of 20,000. Nurses from job group M and above were to get a nursing service allowance of 15,000. I can confirm to the public, to the world, that that return to work agreement that was entered was blatantly violated by the two levels of government. This allowance was only paid in the month of January. And from the month of February, this allowance was withdrawn without any reference to the union. Our communication to the government to have this allowance reinstated has not received any positive response from two levels of government. Therefore, that agreement has been violated by the two levels of government. We also agreed in that return to work agreement that nurses CBA for the collective bargaining agreement was to be negotiated, signed and registered in court on or before 2nd of March 2017. Today is June 15th, 2017. It was to be done within 60 days. Right now we are talking 6 months later. The CBA has been concluded and it has not been signed. It is important for the public and the government functionaries to know that the statement about signing the collective bargaining agreement is not being caused by the Council of Governors. It is not being caused by SRC, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. It is not being caused by the Public Service Commission, which is the ultimate employer of all workers within the national government structure. Our position as a union, through our investigations and through the engagement we have had, we are now going to tell the world and the Kenyan people why nurses are on strike. Who has caused this strike? We are also going to say who is responsible for ending this strike. Last year, when the National Governing Council met at Tomboy Leper College, they made some decisions. But before that, when we were negotiating the recognition agreement, we had concluded negotiation of the recognition agreement. It was ready for signing in the Council of Governors headquarters. One Jacqueline Mogeni, whose husband is running for the senatorial seat in Nyamira. I hope you will not ask me, I'm also running. Whose husband is running for Nyamira senatorial seat, told us that we must include county pension funds, which is a private pension scheme operated by corrupt cartels within the national government, which not within the national government, within the COG, county pension scheme. She said if we don't allow county pension scheme to be included in the recognition agreement, that recognition agreement was not going to be signed. Honestly, that recognition agreement was never signed. We went on strike, and that is why the recognition agreement was signed, because we went on strike. It is now important for us to ask ourselves questions. Why should Jacqueline Mogeni, a public officer, say that unless county pension fund is part of the recognition agreement, it shall never be signed. We went on strike, Kenyan died, Kenyan suffered, because Jacqueline Mokeni will never allow the recognition agreement to be signed unless County Pension Fund, which is a private company owned by Hosea Kili and his cartels, some of them are working even in NHIF, will not allow nurses have that recognition agreement unless CPF is put in the recognition agreement, which is a private firm, private company registered under Companies Act. So who is this person that is fueling Jacqueline Mokeni? From that time Jacqueline Mokeni made that pronouncement, she disappeared from our negotiation. She never showed up again. Jacqueline Mokeni has shown up when the CBA has been concluded. And what does she say? She say now the people who are responsible for signing the CBA are CEC for Health. When we all know that the County Government Act 2012 pensions the powers of signing CBAs to the county public service boards. So Jacqueline Mokeni was bringing a dispute between the county public service boards and the CEC for Health across the country. She achieved by ensuring that there is now a serious conflict between those two organs. Let me tell you, that is where the problem is. I sent her a message, I think on 30th. I told her, it appears you are frustrating everybody. You are frustrating everybody. You don't want the CBA to be signed. You want the nurses to go on strike. 2 days later, she released a letter to SRC. Jacqueline Mokeni is under the payroll of Hosea Kili, who is the group managing director of the many companies he has established. Those companies, the only client they have is Lab Trust. Lab Trust, which is a pension scheme for public servants within county governments. He is fronting a bill he wrote in the toilet himself, saying that CPF must be part and parcel of the county pension scheme so that it becomes an automatic administrator, giving himself up to 5% of the total assets of Lab Trust, which will give Hosea Kili and his cartels not below 5 billion. That is why the CPF for the nurses cannot be signed. Today Lab Trust is collapsing. There are so many senators, aspirant senators, sitting senators, who have been funded by CPF, so that when they go to the Senate, they go and assist Hosea Kili to pass that County Pension Scheme, County Pension Scheme Act 2016, which he wrote alone in his toilet. We must now tell the world what is happening. This is why Kenyans are dying. Because Hosea Kili wants to convert a public trust into a private trust. He has brought down Lab Trust. He has not allowed the Auditor General to audit Lab Trust, which is a public trust. When you go there, he has done all the buildings from Lab Trust to CPF. CPF is not a public trust. CPF is a private company. Jacqueline Mokeni collecting money from CPF to support her husband to become a senator, to assist Hosea Kili to get Lab Trust in his hands. It will happen over my dead body. Mutakubali hiyo? Mutakubali pesa wafanyakazi ibwe? The government has no problem signing the CBA. The problem is corruption. The problem is corruption, which is being orchestrated, directed by Hosea Kili, the group managing director of many companies he has established. I'm ready to die for the workers of this nation. Because when I talk about pension scheme, I'm looking at this worker who will retire and will go to that building and will not get any money for retirement. Enough is enough. We are now telling the world the truth. I want to tell you why. and Ranguma. The two of you, you are the people behind CPF. You are the people who are pushing CPF for registration. You have had a Maskatia here saying he removed me from office for 4 days. Who is sponsoring him in that case? Jose Akili and CPF, they have filed many cases against Panyako and his leadership. They want to remove us from power so that the B can take over the union, so that they can support the county pension scheme, which is going to hand over public trust to Jose Akili and Ranguma and Ongwai. There is no fear anymore. We are ready to sit with the government anytime to discuss this issue so that we end the suffering of Kenyans. But I'm telling Jose Akili, the world should know from today that you are the owner of the ongoing strike. Jacqueline Mokeni, you are the owner of the ongoing strike. The money for the workers you are collecting to keep your husband to campaign will hound you by the death and the wailing of the people of Kenya. Say yes! 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 Shandi kabisa, shandi! Shandi! We will not be scared by anybody in this country anymore. Because when you touch on workers' retirement benefit, you touch on the most volatile, vulnerable point of a worker. When you have retired, you have no source of income. And you want to rob this worker so that he goes, even if people die, because the nurses union made a resolution last year in Tomboy Lepo College to choose Lab Fund. After scrutinizing CPF and knowing that CPF was a private property, which was siphoning money from Lab Trust, which is now collapsing. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the problem. I want to tell the Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Cleopa Mailu, he's continued trying to run away from the health, the nurses' strike, purporting that the strike squarely belongs to the county government, is actually terrible position, which is untenable in the eyes of Kenyans. We know that Mathare National Hospital is on strike, for heaven's sake. We know that Spinal Injury Hospital is on strike, for heaven's sake. God says the Black Bank, even Mafia House itself is on strike. Those are employees within the national government structure. And that is why Cleopa Mailu himself signed a return to work agreement. We want him not to hide in the governors, call this union so that we have a CBA signed between the union and the national government so that we can take back Mathare nurses, Spinal nurses, and others in the national government back to work. He should not tell the world that that's a function of the county government. I want to tell you, fourth schedule in the Constitution of Kenya, clause 13, states clearly that the function of labor standards is a function of the national government. The national government is supposed to set labor standards. The county government, in fact, have no constitutional mandate. Hear me clearly. The county governments have no constitutional mandate to negotiate CBA. They don't have. Because the CBA is part of the national, the labor standards. And the labor standard is a function of the national government. Those people who did this constitution were not fools. Because they know the financial implication of any CBA will be borne by the budget. County governments don't collect the revenue. County governments don't collect the tax. Tax are collected by the retirement, what do we call it? Kenya Revenue Authority, which is a national body. So how do they expect the county government to budget for the national government? It is the national government to negotiate the CBA for the entire country. The function of the county government, as enumerated in Article 235, when you look at Article 235 of the Constitution of Kenya, there is nothing like setting standard remuneration. Their function is to establish offices within standards set by the national government, a law. So the national standard, a CBA, is a national standard. And it cannot be a function of the county government. So I want to tell Mailu to review the Constitution on a serious note. Let them stop playing politics with the people of Kenya. The function of negotiating a CBA is a function of the national government. County governments are to employ according to that CBA. For example, if the CBA job group M says it is 60,000, the county government will say, with the 60,000, how many employees can we employ and put there? That is the function, to employ and to put there according to the national standard. National standard is not a function of the county government. In fact, the CBA, the county government, should in fact come and say it is not their function. I don't even know why they are struggling with us. Enough is enough. And we are going to Constitutional Court. We have to go to Constitutional Court for interpretation of Chapter 4 of the Constitution. And we want interpretation of Article 235 of the Constitution, so that we know if the county government have any powers to set salaries. The County Government Act, some of the sections giving powers to the county government to determine salaries and remuneration, is unconstitutional. That is the function of the national government. Honestly, the lawyers, the Law Society of Kenya, why can't you come in and help us? Why can the Law Society of Kenya look at these things you are raising? That the CBA is a function of the national government, according to the Constitution of Kenya, 4th Schedule, Clause 13, which says labor standards, the function of the national government. And under Article 235, the county governments are to employ according to the national standards. County governments have no constitutional mandate to negotiate a CBA. However, but because we are living in a chaotic country, where everybody wants to throw away his or her mandate, you have the CSA, health is a devolved function. Honestly, health is not a fully devolved function. Health is a shared function. And when you have a shared function, the ultimate original responsibility of that function remains with the national government. Where did these people go to school and say my English? So health is a shared function. It is not a fully devolved.
Live images there from the Railways Club, where the Kenya National Union of Nurses are holding a press conference. The press conference has been going on for the last hour or so. It actually began in a very dramatic manner when the first faction of Kenya National Union of Nurses, led by embattled chairperson John B, attempted to address members of the public there. But immediately they were confronted by another faction of the Kenya National Union of Nurses, led by Maurice Opetu, and chairperson Joseph Ngwasi, now on the other side, who came and took over that particular meeting. And finally, once they took over that meeting, they addressed members of the public, and then they were joined by General Secretary Seth Panyako, who you've just seen on your screen. He's raised several issues that we won't be able to get into, but in summary, he has named those that he believes are responsible for the 12-day nurses strike, stating that they are the ones that have been frustrating the process. He has asked the national government to negotiate and sign the CBA, almost telling them to take over from the Council of Governors. In addition, he has asked other bodies like the Law Society of Kenya and others to come in and intervene in this situation, and he has stated that he's actually ready to die for the rights of nurses as well. Those are his own words. Just a summary of what Seth Panyako has stated at that particular press conference. Now, I have my panel with me here in studio. I'll give them a minute each to comment, to give their thoughts about what's happening. We're also live in Tharaka Nithi, where NASA flag bearer Raila Odinga has just arrived. We'll be taking his image shortly as well, or those images live from Tharaka Nithi, where NASA principals are carrying out a series of campaigns, and then tomorrow they'll head over to Meru County. But joining me in studio, David Osiani, who we had here earlier on. David, let's just start with you. Your initial thoughts and reactions?
As a son of a retired nurse, I've been quite keen on this negotiations. I know that Mr. John B was in February expelled by the nurses. In June, the Employment and Relations Court reinstated him as a chair, but it's been quite obvious that he's lost legitimacy. I'd just advise that he, resigns and let it go. He may be the legitimate chair by law, but not by court of public opinion. Secondly, I think increasingly it seems that our government needs to invest in policies that are borrowed from the past and using the trends in the past to be able to forecast on the future. That way they are able to put in place, even if it's incremental salary increment per year or after every 2 years, that borrow from the past. What are the needs? What are the rates of inflation? You know, roles like being medics, nurses and doctors rely heavily on the population trends. So if the population is growing by this much every year, you naturally need this number of nurses and this number of doctors. And if the payment 10 years ago was this and it seemed to suffice, the inflation rates this year means that this is happening. We need to borrow from different contexts. That is the only way to decisively deal with the strikes. Because 100 days of doctor strike went by, numbers of people died. Nurses are even worse. A doctor just lost his own child in a hospital where he is boss but could not access oxygen. Thirdly, the request by Panyako to the LSK is a very legitimate request. When these two bulls are fighting and we are not very clear who is wrong, who is right, and I'm very sorry that Panyako has made serious allegations that would, you know, probably be treated as libelous. I hope they are not. Be it as it may, the LSK should have been the go-between. They should have been the eye of the public and saying, you know what, the intrigues here are as such, and then broker the deal. I really hope they come in to be the neutral people in this negotiation so that we are able to address this once and for all.
Thank you so much. Zach Kinuthia, who you hadn't seen earlier but is a regular face here on Citizen Extra, your comments, just 1 minute.
I would say that it is very clear today whose role has caused the strike. And Panyako in his own words has said the owner of this strike has been that person that he has named by name. So let me put it this clearly, that it is very important that the government, which has the monopoly of information, which we do not enjoy from this side of the world, rein on the interests and issues raised, which can accelerate ending of this strike. Let me put it to the nurses that in as much as many would want to offer their services to the patients, it becomes increasingly impossible, as David has put it, that they cannot access the places where they work. That is now where the government should come in and secure the places where the nurses and the doctors would want to offer services to the patients, to find an environment to do so. But now to put it to the citizens, it has been said, now this is an election year, we have less than 60 days to election, 50, 52, 51.
About 52 days, that's right.
Yes, and people have been blaming the national government that is not reining on the strikes by the nurses. It is very clear that the government role has been narrowed down into, you sort your order, let your houses be cleaned, the nurses. And then, as the national government, we are going to put what you are going to put for your interest to be catered for. Finally, Wahiga would say that national government and the county governments, which now seems to be sharing the role of health, need to be very clear. If the health is devolved, then every function of health should be devolved, including the exchequer. Are the nurses paid by the governors or are they paid by the ministry? And who holds the final responsibility?
Thank you, Zach, for that. Finally, Mark Bitachi, you had earlier asked the Kenya National Union of Nurses to be specific about their requests and who they feel is standing in the way of them getting what they need to go back to work. Do you now feel vindicated by Seth Panyako's statements?
Well, I feel vindicated, but I also feel guilty for having over-advised them. I think they took my advice too well. But the reality of the matter is that finally they have brought this thing into the sphere where the common mananchi can understand. They brought in the intrigues of corruption and names and things like that. So that makes it an interesting ball game to play. However, what is very critical and what I'm keen to observe is, by and large, the two main political factions have stayed away from commenting about this issue. And if you had the General Secretary's statement, he was very clear in hitting on certain names on both sides of the divide. Now, the question is, what is the national government, what is NASA and Jubilee, what are they going to say about this issue? Because this matter is going to be a political issue. It's 52 days to the election. It has to be a political issue. If I was their strategist, I would make sure that, number one, if I was on Jubilee's side, this is not something that's going to last until the election. If I was on NASA's side, is to make sure, how do I ride on these coattails to make sure that the government is seen to have failed. So let's look at those intrigues, let's see what happens, but what is most important, we must consider the lives of Kenyans that are being lost and resolve this issue as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, David, and thank you, Zach, for that expert analysis. And this brings us to the end of the English edition of Citizen Extra. But before we wind up, we cross over to Tharaka Nithi County, where, of course, we know NASA principals have just landed and they'll be addressing a rally there. We know that after landing in Chuka, they have a roadside address in Chuka as well. Those are the images that you're seeing on your screen. Those are live images. This is part of the earlier part of today's program. We know that they'll head to Magutuni, Kadwana, Tunyai, and also hold a rally in Kibunga. And so we are waiting for that to start. Then we'll be able to hear what statements they have to make on a wide raft of issues, including the IBC tender row. I'm sure they'll comment on the NASS strike. Of course, the Unga revolution has been termed. Tomorrow we know that NASA will be headed to Meru County. There'll be Nigoji, Nkubu, Mikunduri, Maua, and Lare. These are perceived Jubilee strongholds. And so it will be interesting to see how NASA will change their message, or rather seek to win the hearts and minds of those who many would consider to be in a Jubilee stronghold, to make them change their perception and want to vote now for NASA. So this is something that we are following closely there. We have Sam Ogina, who we hope in the next hour so will be able to update us on what are some of those messages. We know that NASA was supposed to arrive at about 10, but it appears that they've landed a bit later, just a few minutes ago, and so that function officially beginning. We'll be updating you as and when we get updates. But for now, that brings us to the end of Citizen Extra English edition. Kanzedena is up next on the Kiswahili edition of Citizen Extra. She'll be revisiting some of the issues that we've discussed here and also take us to our lunchtime news with Fred Indimole. Well, that's it from me and the panel here. But keep it Citizen TV, because Citizen Extra continues.